Great. So welcome everyone to the 2021 Capacity Building Virtual Institute, our celebration of state plans. My name is Michael Storr and I work for NTACT at the University of North Carolina, Charlotte. Helping me today with facilitation, Catherine Fowler and Carolyn McGee will be joining us, as well as a lot of NTACT folks in the background. So again, thank you all for joining us. And as a reminder, we are recording today, and if you have comments, questions, type those into the chat box. So today, what we're going to be doing after a brief welcome is doing a quick summary of the 2021 CBVI. And then we're actually jumping right into then the state sharing. So you all have received an email last evening or this morning from me regarding kind of the order of the slides. We are going to try to keep it to about 3 minutes. We will not have an annoying timer popping up, but I will be reminding you like a 1 minute warning as we go through, so we can kind of keep it to 3 minutes and click through. So the big category areas we're going to be talking about today are family engagement, and then interagency collaboration, systems alignment. We have that in two parts because a lot of states are working in that area. We have student-focused planning as a topic, students with complex support needs, looking at collaboration with a focus on career tech ed, and then our second interagency collaboration piece. In between some of that, we're going to be talking about where you can find the materials from the 2021 CBVI, as well as other ways to stay connected with NTACT throughout the coming year. And then finally, a wrap up of upcoming events that we're going to be involved with. So with that, I'm going to turn this over to Catherine to do a bit of an update of this past year's 2021 CBVI. So Catherine?
Sure. It's so good to see everybody. It makes me very excited to see. I can't get you all on my screen at once, but great to see you all. I know this was one of the things we were saying we kind of missed from the CBVI was that we didn't get to screen share with everybody quite so much. So we're glad to see you. Hope everybody's well. Yes, here we are again as things kick off again for the 2021-22 school year. And it does feel a little bit like Groundhog Day, but hopefully we have learned some lessons and things will go smoothly as we roll into the next few months. You can see on your screen, hopefully these are our stats from the CBVI. So we had quite a few folks registered that may or may not have been on teams. And then ultimately we ended up with about 400 individuals who participated, which is quite a bit larger than we've ever been able to host in person. And also 48 states were represented. We had we had 41 teams from states who participated in planning. And then you can see some of the other statistics there about the way the leadership of teams looked, and whether that was shared between education and VR or led by education or VR, and the participation on the team. So we felt like this year was our most diverse as far as team membership and roles on teams. And that's something that I know some of your teams have been working on for years with NTACT, and then have moved that forward with NTACT. And we expect that to continue to expand moving forward. And Michael, if you can advance the slide, thank you. This was you all. We had great response to our evaluation. And so this was what we were looking to do with the content. And we did have this balance, of course, between special education or education in general for secondary students with disabilities, as well as vocational rehabilitation. So we had those, as you all know, are our two primary audiences, and that was what the content reflected, and certainly focused on collaboration and partnerships and all those critical stakeholders in the work. And you can progress again, I think.
Sure, I can. Hold on.
It's like, I think that looks like,
no, you were good.
Okay. We did have a survey and we had pretty good response rate on that, which was very exciting. So thank you. If you completed the evaluation, that doesn't always happen. In general, people seemed to be satisfied with the CBVI as far as it accomplishing what we want it to accomplish. People were generally satisfied with the content and the presentations, and we get lots of open-ended comments, and we really do comb through each and every one of those and take those into consideration moving into the future years planning. So thank you for your feedback. And moving along, people were really excited about the youth and family voices and the focus on that in the Institute, and particularly Hari's presentation, but I think also the video montage, I call it, from the beginning, the kickoff, that was both youth and families who were featured. And that was something that you all seemed really interested in. And we've had a lot of follow-up from different states being interested in doing something similar. So that's great. I think, again, generally complimentary about the facilities using Zoom, yes, LMS, all of those, but that, again, we did get some feedback that helps us to improve moving forward as well. Some things to improve. We're all tired of being online. We know that. So trying to come up with ways to be, more engaging and build those things into our webinars and other things that we do online moving forward. So that's helpful. And we can continue on. I'll let you all read these, and you're welcome to see the report.
Okay, hang on one second.
And then related to planning, things to consider moving forward, being intentional about the composition of the team moving forward. And this is something we're really looking at this strategically ourselves as a staff, and then how to help state leaders think about doing the same things within their own teams. And that is something important moving forward. And then thinking about us, the center, being a resource, considering the resource and TA requests received over the year when planning, which is something that we do, and we'll continue to do that moving forward, and make sure that that's driving our content for not only the Institute, but also all the other webinars and professional development that we provide. So again, thank you for your feedback. Just want you to know that we use it. So keep doing those evaluations. And with that, I believe I will be turning it back over to our MC pretty much for the next bit of time together. So Mr.
Great.
Storr.
Thank you, Catherine. So we're going to go ahead and jump into your state updates. And the way this will work, and you kind of got the batting order I sent out last night, but we have a topic, and we have the states that we'll be presenting. I'll pull up your state slide. You'll have 3 minutes to kind of go through your information. I'll give you like a 1-minute warning as we go through. And so just kind of be ready as we go on. And we're going to start with our first state, which is Ohio. Right, so well, Ohio, hey, Amy and company, if you want to unmute and get rolling.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Michael and Catherine, and to the entire NTACT team for always putting together such a great time for us to share. I do have a lot of my team members that are on the call, and it occurred to me that I sent them all the link instead of having them register. So it's going to look like I am texting or putting the message in for everyone. I am not. I think everyone has my name on the chat. So sorry about that. But at any rate, so Ohio's 2021 plan focuses on family engagement, and it builds upon our family engagement focus plan that we had in 2020 and in 2019. And as you can read on the slide, our team's goal is that by May of 2022, we're going to deploy and disseminate cross-agency professional learning experiences as the foundation for improving family engagement for transition age youth. Lots of words, but I think that here again, the focus is on the family. Our 2020 plan focused on the development of a workbook. And that workbook you'll see pictured right here in the middle of the slide. It's called Establishing Families as Essential Partners in the Secondary Transition Planning Process. And the workbook addresses what we consider critical topics for secondary transition and family engagement. And you'll see universal design for family engagement, valuing families, implicit bias, evolution of disability, cultural and linguistic diversity, and authentic and necessary conversations. So we had a state cross-agency group who built this workbook, and then that same group trained regional teams, cross-agency teams last spring. We trained around 70 participants, and now the goal will be for those regional trainers to train local cross-agency teams throughout this year. So we're refining the workbook based on feedback from the previous trainings and such. Our steering committee is giving a lot of great feedback on, how to really get this set up so that we are not overloading any one regional team in terms of capacity, and how we can really get the word out on the work that we're going to be doing. And then the regional teams will start training the local cross-agency teams. We will have a community of practice that our state agency work group will run for our regional trainers. And then we hope that after the learning experiences are completed, that we'll have regional and local community of practices starting out throughout the state as well. So really to kind of see that cascade of work move from state to regional to local, and then see the sustainability as we develop the community of practice. And that's really all that I have to share.
Fantastic. And you have 30 seconds left. So fantastic. Thank you. Thank you. And we're going to move on to our next state team, which is going to be Connecticut. So just give me 1 second. And Connecticut folks. I'm not
Hi,
sure.
Michael. Missy here.
Hey, Missy, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I am
It's
well,
great
thank you.
It's great to be here. Unfortunately, Alicia can't be with us today, although I do think we have a few other members. I was kind of scrolling through all the screens. I think there's a few other members here. But we have, for family partnerships, it's been a goal of ours for several years. To increase the materials that we have for families and put them in formats so that they can understand and enjoy and take a look at, streamlining some of that, disseminating the information to families and how we can best do that. So we'll be looking at a variety of tasks and resources and activities for that. We have been translating resources for Connecticut families. We actually have a new IEP that's also coming out. So that's going to be exciting, and that can actually be translated into 10 different languages. So really looking forward to that, except the training is pretty awesome right now. And then looking at our family partnerships, we do intentionally try to get family members into all of our transition groups, our task force, our community practice, what that looks like. We provide training for our families around secondary transition. We have a section on our State Department's website for resources for students and families specifically. So how we're building that up and how we're getting that information out to families. We're developing crosswalks and all those good things to help families kind of navigate the transition process in Connecticut. So sometimes it can be tricky. So I think that's it for families. Do you want me to talk about the interagency piece or wait till the interagency section?
Well, you have 40 seconds, so jump in. This is your
Okay.
shot, Missy.
There you go. That works for me. We've been working very hard with the interagency collaboration piece and getting all of our important stakeholders at our meetings. We're doing much better on that this year. We've got some new people that are coming in, but just developing those interagency partnerships for our students and families and what that looks like. So it is, it's an important piece for us, and we have a lot of people that sit around our table. And so that's always an important piece. So I don't really need to say a lot more about that. So.
And time's up. So it's
there
a good thing. So thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Missy. And just as a reminder to folks too, we are going to be posting the recording from today and the PowerPoint on the NTACT website, transitionta.org. So look for that. And with that, we're going to go ahead and move on to our next state, which is Florida. So if Florida folks can unmute, and I'm not sure if who all is on from Florida, if Wendy's joined us or other folks from Florida.
Yes, thank you, Michael.
Hey,
I'm on
Wendy,
here.
how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good, thanks. You're on.
All right, and I believe Marion and Genevieve from our Division of Blind Services are on as well. So for Florida this year, we had an amazing team, number one, to start off with. A few years ago, we were fortunate enough to have, we've consistently had VR involved, DBS involved, our Family Network on Disabilities, so our Parent and Training Center for Florida as well involved. And this year we were really excited to add our career and technical education to our team as well, and to bring back new and different members from DBS for Florida. So that was really nice for us to have a large team to start off our work again this year. So the top goals that we created, we had a number of goals, but the top three that we have to address this year are increasing family and district knowledge of transition planning process. It's something, and it was nice to hear the other states mention that too as well. We've tried for a number of years to really increase the dissemination of products and things that will give more information to families and students about transition. And we've also been trying to increase that in different languages because Florida has a rather large variety of languages. So that's one of our goals. Another is to increase the opportunities across the state for students with disabilities to complete career and technical education programs. And then also to increase the participation of work-based learning experiences across the state. So I think it shows not only our collaboration from multiple stakeholders, but our top goals are related in different ways. Some highlights from our past year, and anyone from DBS add in if you would like to, but since WIOA, we had our state education agreement come out and roll out real quickly, but however, our LEA templates, we were a little bit slower on. So this year, well, last year we were able to get the VR template, and DBS is finalizing it now. It's in that vetting process. So it's really exciting to say that we have those completed. Again, the collaboration, that was a huge highlight for us this particular year. And then in Florida, the Florida legislature passed House Bill 173, and this is going to be monumental for students across the state and families as well, because it will start the transition process earlier for all students with disabilities in the state of Florida. So instead of starting at 14 and 16, now they will start at the age of 12 or 7th grade, whichever comes first. So we're really excited about that. And with the passage of that bill, it gave assignments to the Florida Department of Education and our transition discretionary project, Project 10, to go to assess transition programs throughout the state, identify best practices, and have them posted on our website by July 1st of 2022. So we're really excited about that House bill. It's a lot of work, but it's going to be all good outcomes from it. And then our plans are to continue collaboration, continue flexibility. I think everyone probably still has that with COVID. And we're really excited about planning to start transition earlier.
Great. Thanks, Wendy. Appreciate
you.
Florida's update. Good seeing you.
Good seeing you too.
Take care. All right. And next up, we have our folks from Oklahoma. So if the Oklahoma folks can unmute.
Hi, Michael.
Renee. Hey, Renee, how are you today?
I'm good. Lori Chestnut is on here as well. We both
Okay,
work together.
great. Lori, you want to mute and show yourself, and I'll start the timer as soon as you're here, and you guys can jump in. But Lori, if you want to join Renee, or not,
That's fine.
or Renee, you might be going solo.
I know that she might have been a little late, but anyway.
No worries. Go ahead. You're good.
In Oklahoma, we really wanted to increase dissemination methods to families of transition, in the provision of services and really work on our family engagement statewide. We have pockets of family engagement that are really good, but we're trying to expand on that. So we've added partners to the family engagement framework that will be implemented across multiple agencies within the next year, hopefully. We're working with our Department of Education, serving on new, the Oklahoma Parent Center advisory boards, collaborating to identify transition resources. Our team is also, we're constantly promoting activities that are currently happening statewide. We're trying to strengthen our collaborations with our tribal partners, and not only with family engagement, but with Project Search and our pre-employment and transition and all of those things. We are utilizing fully accessible videos and webinars called Transition Tuesdays on topics to help with family engagement through the Oklahoma Parent Center. And our University of Oklahoma, the National Center for Disability Education and Training, we have our pre-ETS contract through them, and they're doing the same thing. We are informing staff of family engagement as part of the new employee orientation, and utilizing data from agency platforms that we have to host trainings for school personnel and administrators in those areas that we're seeing a lack of participation and just applications in general for VR and IEPs or whatever the case may be. And we will also promote training through local Transition Institute teams, for our Oklahoma Transition Council and Institute, superintendents, special ed directors, and various other partners in the state. So we're excited.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing. And you could win the prize. You were like at 2 minutes. So thank you for your update. Greatly appreciate it.
Thank you, Michael.
Okay, so we are going to move on, and we're moving into our next category. And I did want to mention, as you look at the PowerPoint, you go through the slides, you'll see the topic heading. So we're moving into interagency collaboration, systems alignment. This is part one, because we have part two in a bit. But you'll notice the first line are the states that are presenting, but then you will also see an also included section. And in that also included section, these are other states that in their plans for the work for 2021-22, they also are addressing this topic. The other thing that you'll notice as you're looking at these slides and you're hearing states present is there's a lot of cross information, right? So when you were looking at the family engagement slides that were just presented, while they were addressing family engagement, they were also looking at interagency collaboration, at some compliance issues, among our other topical areas. So I think that's the other thing to keep in mind. Transition is such a vast topic that oftentimes these things touch on other areas. So with that, we're going to move into interagency collaboration, and we'll start off with our folks from Delaware. So Delaware.
Great,
Dale,
thanks, Michael.
Company, you're on.
Dave Fry is not with us. He's on vacation this week, but George Tilson is with us, and I've asked him just to jump in if he's got any add-ins.
Great. So George, if you want to unmute and join Dale, I'll start your timer.
So we are continuing with our interagency collaboration and kind of really looking at a lot of our policies and processes across all of our not only Department of Ed, but our sister agencies as well. So most people have kind of heard us talk about over the last few years, our pipeline to career success for students with disabilities. We were very fortunate in the pandemic last year that we actually brought a new LEA into that fold with us. So with everything that was crazy going on with the shift to remote learning and virtual learning and all of those pieces and not knowing what was going on from one day to the next, we were able to bring on an additional LEA. So we're going to be up starting our fourth cohort. We've been meeting with, we have 4 LEAs that are coming on board this year. We also have 3 are with our district folks, and we have 1 charter school that's coming on board. So we're excited about that to get the charter schools into our fray as well. Because as some of you know, in Delaware, our charter schools are considered public schools, and they receive state funding as well. The other piece that we're doing is really focusing on a student engagement piece this year and adding that in. We've tried to push schools from the very beginning to look at student engagement and getting feedback from students. And that's kind of been a slow push. We're requiring that this year. So actually we have all of our, from all 4 cohorts, they're going to be looking at the student engagement piece that we're actually having our first training around on September the 22nd. So we're really looking forward to that. Also increasing our data sharing across our agencies. We've been working very close with our voc rehab folks and really looking at aligning our data systems and our metrics so we can kind of track how we're providing services and those outcomes. But as most of us know, we had basically our 4 sister agencies that work very closely together: DOE, Developmental Disability Services, Voc Rehab, and our Division for Visual Impairments. We all went to bat at the same time to develop data platforms, and we all went in 4 different directions. So now we're trying to reverse that a little bit so we can have some better data sharing. We're also really looking, we found during the pandemic that our referral process for adult agencies, we were slow from the referral process to completed applications. So we're really beginning to dig down into that data to see how we can improve that process so we can get from referral to actually completed application and get students receiving services. We're continuing our transition cadre, which meets the 3rd Thursday of every month. We moved that to virtual last year. We typically have about 120 to 150 people that are involved in that on a monthly basis, which is exciting and allows us to improve our dissemination of information. And all 4 agencies that I mentioned before, we co-facilitate that. So it's not one person taking the lead, it's all 4 of us taking the lead together. So that's getting more information to our transition stakeholders from all of our agencies. We're also venturing into shared positions. We're developing MOUs between LEAs and vocational rehabilitation. This is starting with our pipeline work to really look at how can we better embed pre-ET services down into our local schools, and working with other programming such as CTE and our work-based learning programs to really look at making sure that we've got those things in place for our students to be successful. And then again, it's really looking at continuing to increase that communication across LEAs and agencies. We do a really good job at the state level. Where we kind of fall apart is at the local level, because many people have their own personal contacts. So we're establishing main contacts in each of our middle schools and high schools to be able to help facilitate that process. So there's one flow of information, and we can make sure that all of that information is disseminated about to those that need it. George, anything I missed?
Nope. And George has been doing a good job keeping up with chat too. So thank you guys, appreciate it. And I guess just as a reminder, check out the chat as folks are asking questions. And if the folks that are presenting from states, if folks are requesting either materials or MOUs or other resources, if you could get those to us, we'll make sure they get disseminated out to our state teams. All right, I'm going to move on to our next state, which is Georgia, and over to the Georgia folks, maybe. There we go. So Georgia. Elise, Winna? If you're there.
This is Elise. I'm here. Winna, are you there?
I'm here too.
You're
Okay.
both there. Fantastic. All right, ladies, I'll let you take it from here.
Go ahead, Winna.
No, Lisa, I was going to let you share.
Okay.
Always have a lot to share about transition.
Yes,
And,
we do.
You know, I have been honored to serve in that role myself, but Elise really is the specialist for transition. So I'm going to let her do the sharing today.
Thank you, Winna. And we have lots of our team members here today too. So we're very excited about this year, and we're really trying to build on what we have been doing for the past few years. As you can see in front of you, we have as our targets to increase the graduation rate and decrease the dropout rate for students with disabilities. And the initiatives we have in place to make that happen are around self-determination. We really want to encourage districts, and we have been encouraging districts to make sure that they are using some self-determination interventions and strategies when working with students. And as you all know, who have known us for a while, we have been doing student-led IEPs. I think this is our 12th year now, and we've just started implementation on the self-determined learning model of instruction and embedding that into student-led IEPs. We also want to make sure that we increase the use of assistive technology with these self-determination initiatives. And we have adopted, and I'm not sure if it's your tool or not, Catherine, but last year when we saw the AT considerations for transition tool, we decided that is something we really needed to do because we have a major AT push across the state. We have a partnership with Georgia Tech and tech help. I don't want to talk about it too much because it's not really my wheelhouse, but we are assisting all across the state with people using all types of assistive technology and software free that the state is providing for them in order to help students to access their curriculum. We also want to increase the number of kids who are doing career pathways, which are a series of vocational type courses where kids can get some type of certification. So we're providing joint professional learning opportunities with counselors, CTAE, and we have a special CTI division which works with students with disabilities, as well as working with them to understand the accommodations and strategies that may be needed to allow these kids to be able to complete. We also want to increase our partnership with VR and GVRA. We have had a love relationship for a long time, but every now and then we've had little breakups due to reorganization, and we're always trying to get back in sync. So now we're working on that right now. We're working very hard on a PR campaign with all of our stakeholders, including parents. VR is sponsoring transition talks where we'll really be doing some cross training between school-based transition people and VR transition counselors. And we're considering doing a shared transition websites, kind of sort of what you all are doing. And we also want to increase the implementation of pre-eds across Georgia. So we're trying to develop protocols and help with increasing communication so everybody understands how to get students involved in pre-eds. And finally, we want to establish a statewide transition consortia. We are repurposing in a small way the consortia that is in Metro Atlanta so that we can include districts from all over the state. So this is a place where we can disseminate critical information, talk about best practices, and encourage those districts in breakout rooms to then look at their local issues and topics and address them. And finally, we want to help the interagency collaboration by helping districts work on resource mapping and working with VR for resource mapping so that they can look at what's available to assist their students as they transition from high school to post-secondary.
Great. Elise, Winna, thank you guys so much for presenting. And you're going to be busy this year, but really
we're always busy.
Happening in Georgia.
We're always busy.
Thanks so much for sharing. Great job. Next up with our interagency collaboration area is Kansas. So the folks from Kansas, if you want to unmute. So Wendy or Bert, if you're on.
Hi, this is Wendy Coates from Kansas, and with me is Stacy Martin.
Hey, Wendy and Stacy.
Kansas is okay, we're up. Kansas is continuing our work from last year's NTACT CBVI, and our goals are around interagency coordination. And one of our big goals has been to establish an interagency coordinating council that we got rolling last year. We had a couple of stumbling blocks, but are keeping it moving forward. And the purpose is to establish a structure to provide quality professional development and technical assistance across our state. That's been an area of concern for us for a while. So trying to increase our collaboration again and get some things rolling so folks get some support and good quality professional development around how to improve transition services and outcomes for students with disabilities. As part of that process, we invited some additional partners to our NTACT team this year. The University of Kansas Center on Developmental Disabilities has a grant project they've been working on around transition especially. And so we invited a couple of their staff to be part of our team this year. And we will continue collaborating with them on their grant project through the end of this year. And then they are seeking another grant opportunity to help us continue this work and build some resources. One of the outcomes of that partnership so far has been looking at a needs assessment. So we can get a picture of what folks in the field feel are areas of weakness for us in terms of professional development. And then what kind of resources and guidance do we need to help deliver to them so that teachers and staff and administrators feel they have the support they need to work with their students and again, get those better outcomes and look at quality transition planning for our kids. We have a webpage that we established. We didn't have good resources on our state website. So we established a webpage to provide some resources and materials around transition specific to Kansas. One of those things is a transition planning guide that we helped develop with another bigger state transition work group that was established through our state board. And that guide is available on our website in Spanish and in English. And then we'll be continuing our Transition Tuesday webinars this year, running September through May, one Tuesday a month. So folks can check in and hear some things that are going on in Kansas, have some discussion, and learn about areas of collaboration and things that they can do to work with their students and make improvements. And just a final note, this is my farewell to my NTACT compadres. I am retiring from the State Department and moving on to new adventures. So I thank you for all your collaboration, all the things I've learned from you. It's been a great experience. And again, thank you for the opportunity.
Wow. Well, congratulations. And that's sad, actually, but I guess good for you. Really, congratulations, Wendy. That is wonderful. So, and thank you for sharing what's happening in your state. And state, who's picking up the baton from you, Wendy?
Right now, Stacy Martin will be the backup person. They do intend to fill my position, so we hear. So Stacy will be your lead for the interim piece, and hopefully you'll have somebody who's as cool and savvy as Stacy is to pick it up and keep moving on, because we have some good things started.
Great. Hey, thanks so much, Wendy, and
thank you, Michael.
Stacy, welcome aboard. All righty, so we're going to move on next, and next state interagency collaboration is our friends from Michigan. So those folks want to unmute. I think maybe Jennifer Shannon.
Yep. Hi, Michael. This is Jennifer.
Hey, Jennifer.
Shannon is unable to join us today.
Okay, so Jennifer, you're on.
Yeah, so I think it's just me. I, went through and I didn't see anybody else from our team. So if anyone has joined on, please, if I missed something, say something. So this is our one of the things that we've been working on since 2017. We've been together, and with that, we have created a state level cross agency transition team. And so some of you might have heard of, we call ourselves MIT, Michigan Interagency Transition Team. And so the main focus that we've been working on since 2017 is a statewide model. And with that statewide model, we want to make sure that we're decreasing the duplication of services, that we're all talking the same lingo, and being able to provide the information to our students and families at any given time. So this is one of the things that we have that came out from this year, and we've been working on this for some time. We were thankful to have some other models be shared with us, and so we can talk about it and really see what it is. The biggest thing that, if you look at the slide, we're working on a fidelity checklist, a system flow of services, and then also a student flow of services, to where we're providing that information and making sure that we are providing a seamless transition for our students from high school to their post-high jobs or training, whatever it might be that they want to do. So we want to make sure that with this graphic that we're aligning the transition services, that state agencies are, decreasing those duplication of services. We're promoting a common goal, and that common goal is assisting our students with disabilities, because when we come to the table, that's all we do. So that's one of the biggest things that we've been working on. We do have a large group in our interagency transition team. So we have a lot of good representation in being able to provide a system and making sure that we're meeting the needs across the state of Michigan.
Great. Thank you so much. I appreciate you sharing. And with that, and we're good on time, so we're going to go ahead and move to our next state. And that next state would be Mississippi. So it looks like Kendrick and Christy, if you want to unmute and tell us the great things that are happening in Mississippi.
We'd be excited to share what's going on with Mississippi, and Kendrick's on here and he can jump in at any time, and any of our other state members that might be on here, we leave something out, you guys feel free to jump in. So Mississippi's transition plan, really, I feel like we are kind of just starting and building kind of from the ground up. So our real push was that inter and intra-agency agreement, and learning and building understanding across state departments and across departments at MDE, so that we can leverage what we're all doing to really support students with disabilities in improving their leaving high school ready, career and college ready, or ready to go into the workforce or live as independently as possible. So in order to really work together with state agencies, and across MDE agencies, we wanted to use collaborative conversations to kind of build knowledge and streamline support. So like you said, we have that common vocabulary, so we can really work amongst each other and and with each other to share that information. We are also hoping to build a guidebook that will be for state agencies and educators and how we can work together to improve outcomes for students with disabilities in transition. And we are hoping to do a professional development roadshow that will include state agencies and educators together at the same training. And then, of course, the alignment across MDE, we're looking at how we can use those professional developments and combined resources, not only across state agencies, but bringing that information back into MDE and across our MDE agency. And then last but not least is making sure that we can take this and relay it down to districts. So we want to be able to duplicate the collaborative conversation as we learn and grow together. We want to be able to duplicate that in local communities with the resources and state agencies that they have available to them. And we're not 100% certain on what that is going to look like when it's finally done, but we are updating the website with new transition services and information for school districts. And we are also providing school districts with monthly calls where we highlight things that are going on right now and who the contact person is for them to reach out to for that.
Great. Kendrick, anything to add?
No, sure. Great job, Christy.
50 seconds. Go ahead.
No, we're good. Thank you.
All right. Fantastic. Thank you, Christy. Thank you, Kendrick. Wonderful stuff in Mississippi. So thanks so much. And with that, we're going to go ahead and move on to North Carolina. So our friends from North Carolina, if you want to jump in.
Okay, I'm here. Can you hear me, Michael?
We sure can. Go
Okay.
on. You're good.
All right, great. This is Beverly Caldwell, and I'm reporting for the North Carolina State Agency Collaborative Team. That includes our CTE State Representative, Shannon Baker. I believe she is on the call with me today. I'm representing the Exceptional Children State Agency division. And then we have our VR State Agency representative, Stephanie Haynes, who was unable to join us today. I'm going to go over just a little bit of what we've accomplished this past year and then what we plan to do for the upcoming year. But I need to give you just a little bit of history so you understand where this started and why we had to rethink a couple of things. We began as just EC and VR, working together to train some teams using some tools that I'll share with you in just a minute back in 2017. And as part of that, those 8 regions that you see in that state map on the slide are the regions that we train, just EC and VR. And we were using a variety of tools to get them to kind of think about their resources and leverage their resources and whatnot. And we gave them the recommendation when they left those training sessions that when they go back to their districts, they should include their CTE folks. So we had to rethink that, and we started to say to ourselves, we need to practice what we're preaching. So in 2019, we began our state collaborative training sessions, and we included our CTE state representative, who was a part of our team, but was not a part of our pre-ETS training sessions that we were doing. So at that point in time in 2019, we started a collaborative team session training at our November EC pre-conference session, and we invited 12 teams. Each team included a CTE representative, an EC representative, and a VR representative. So there we were practicing what we were preaching, pulling them together from the beginning. And during those sessions, we began to work with them on some tools. And those tools included a coordination practices tool, pre-ETS mapping tool. And then as part of that day, we also asked them to develop their next steps action plan. Well, then we get through that training and enter pandemic. And the pandemic forced us to have to step back and provide what we were doing in a virtual format, which meant that we had to lower our number of participants. So we did that. We lowered our participants to 5 teams, but we continued on with the training in a virtual format. So currently, what we're looking at is that we've trained 26 teams altogether, including the teams from 2019 and the ones we've trained virtually. But we have 115 LEAs and 200 charter schools in our state. So we have a long way to go, and we're plugging away and hoping that we can get back face-to-face a couple times a year of the year so that we can get more participants together. So that leads us into our 21-22 goal, is that we want to keep on keeping on with the training.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Beverly. And I appreciate you sharing what's happening in North Carolina. And with that, we're going to move on to our next section and our next topical area, which is really looking at student youth focused planning. And again, like with the other topical areas, these states do cross over into other areas. But we will hear from Virginia and Wisconsin. And as a reminder, the plans both from those that have joined us today and shared slides, as well as from others states that participated in the 2021 CBVI are listed there. So we also have included some states that don't have slides, but in their state plans that they worked on back in May, they were addressing student youth focused planning. And with that, we're going to move on to Virginia, and let me pull it up. And Marianne Moore and folks in Virginia, if you want to unmute, I'm not sure if it's Amanda or Marianne or it may be presenting, but
hi.
Hey, Amanda, how are you? Good seeing you. I'm good.
Marianne is here as well.
Okay.
So Marianne, I will start us off, and if you need to say anything, go ahead.
All right. So you're on, Amanda.
All right, so our goal for this coming year is to continue to look at how can we increase the use of age-appropriate transition assessments and collaboration to provide educator and practitioner resources to improve the transition process and transition-related IP goals. And like many of the other goals, it's long, but our goal is really to say, how can we look at all of the agencies that touch our students during their transition process and improve not only that common vocabulary, but the process, so that everyone has the same knowledge across the board, or at least access to the same knowledge. Because one of the things we worked on last year is really trying to gather resources and look at what options were out there. And we realized there was not a lot that's particular to Virginia to help them with that process. And so some of the things that we've been working on is gathering some of those resources and figuring out what's ready to disseminate, but what things do we need to work on, reorganize to make sure that it's available for all of our educators and partners in Virginia. One of the great things that Marianne has helped us work on is securing funding to create some Virginia-specific transition modules. So taking some of that great research that's out there and information that we already know and figuring out how can we create some modules that are specific to the resources available in Virginia and specific to the needs of our students and our communities. As well as supporting our universities. We have a couple of universities who are working on transition programs and helping them to support and connecting them with the other organizations, so that it's not just education focused, but they connect with the other state partners that touch our students through transition, so that our teachers entering the field are having awareness of all the different partners they can work with. We have an amazing team. And so you see our partners listed at the bottom. We have had one of the best interagency collaboration experiences, and it's been great. We got together, during the pandemic, and we've been going strong on Zoom every month, and we show up, and it's pretty cool. We have some funding secured. And we have a diverse representation. We have a student who has been part of our group last year and this year, and so that continues to be an important part of our group. And we really appreciate Marcus Poppin, who has been our facilitator the last 2 years, and he's stuck with the Virginia team. I think that's all for us. Marianne, do you have anything to add?
Just that we also were able to get CTE on board, and they have the person that worked with us, Sharon Acuff. Dale, you might recognize that name from years ago when you were here in Virginia, but she has really worked well with us, and CTE had decided they needed regional work-based learning coordinators. And Sharon is now the coordinator of the coordinators in regions. And so we don't have all of our regions covered yet, but we have, I think, 3 who have already been hired. And so we have a new person on our team who comes from, she is now a work-based learning coordinator in our region 2, which is highly populated. That's where we have Newport News and shipbuilding, and we have an Army base, we have an Air Force, Army Air Force base. We also have Oceana Naval Air Station, which is huge. So that's going to be really exciting as we move forward and see some more work-based learning opportunities for students with disabilities. So we're excited about that.
Fantastic. Thanks, Amanda and Mary Ann, for presenting about Virginia.
Oh, and just one last comment.
Yep,
You were
sure.
fabulous, Dr. Randall.
She was good. So nice job,
Fabulous, Mr.
Thanks so
Store.
All right. Okay, moving on. We're going to join our friends up in Wisconsin and their presentation. So Wisconsin folks, if you want to unmute, I don't know, Pam or Alyssa.
Hi there, this is Alicia Reinhard. I am the statewide transition and graduation consultant from the Wisconsin Department of Public Instruction. I am representing our small group of team members who attended the Institute from our discretionary project in Wisconsin, the Transition Improvement Grant. From the Institute, we really kind of landed on 3 goals for this year that really support our larger state plan in Wisconsin, which has big overarching goals to do things like improving the graduation rates for students with disabilities, increasing the quality of transition plans that are being written in Wisconsin. And so we're excited to kind of dive into these 3 goals for this year. It's interesting, I was kind of prepping for today and I saw a theme in that each of these goals kind of builds on each other and the capacity of each of these groups and the connection from our discretionary project to educators all the way down to students. So our first goal this year is going to be focused to build our team's capacity to coach courageous conversations around race. Our discretionary project is a key coaching partner for districts with federal notifications. And so that is an area of need we will be focusing on to kind of trickle that to the educators and connecting to students. We would like to host in collaboration with some great NTACT staff, our own Unpacking Assumptions series for educators so that they can really unpack maybe those assumptions that are impacting the transition planning that they're implementing for students with disabilities, and really getting at some of those subgroups of students with disabilities who are struggling more than their peers in Wisconsin. And then last, all the way down to the student voice, we would like to further and more deeply implement our self-advocacy suite of curricula in order, and in doing that, we would empower more student voice and culture in transition planning. And so our hope is that we would take that suite in collaboration with some NTACT staff and implement it in our largest school district in Wisconsin, in Milwaukee, and see if we can't see the impact of empowering student voice and self-determination on graduation rates and dropout rates in that school district.
That is fantastic. Yeah, and it really does. I think it's promoting a lot of what we've been talking about moving from the state to the regional, local, the actual student level, and fantastic work. So very cool. Thanks for sharing. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on. We're going to jump into our next topic, which is looking at students with complex support needs. And I'm going to turn this over to our friends in Arizona, District of Columbia and Pennsylvania. So we'll start with Arizona, and Sam or Abel, if you're there.
Hi, Michael, it's Sam.
Hey, Sam.
How are you? I'm doing well. How are you?
I am well, thank you. You're on.
All right. Well, I am Sam Klein. I'm one of the co-leads for the Arizona team. Our team is comprised of at the Department of Education. We have exceptional student services staff and CTE staff in our secondary transition team. We also work closely with Voc Rehab and a statewide nonprofit, Diversability Incorporated. For the last 2 years, we've maintained these 2 goals, one related to the collaboration of CTE, VR, special education, to enhance the recruitment and retention of students with disabilities in CTE programs. And then we do have a complex support needs goal where we're looking at the collaboration of behavioral health providers, special education, and Voc Rehab to prepare students with behavioral health concerns for competitive integrated employment. So some highlights for our CTE related goal. We started out last winter by administering a statewide survey for school counselors, CTE, SPED, and VR staff. We had over 800 responses, and this data helped us identify successes and barriers and really drive the progress in our goal. And Ana Nunez just shared a link to a quick webinar where we actually recorded some of those statewide results if you want to check that out. Another resource that we've been able to pull from that we didn't necessarily create but supports our goal, and it came out of the Department of Ed, is CTE Quick Reference Guides, which we use as a recruitment tool, and we'll put that link in the chat for you all as well to maybe if you have this goal for yourself. Some other highlights and plans for our CTE goal include some professional development we hosted with Voc Rehab staff on an overview of CTE and an overview of Indicator 13 requirements. We also will be hosting some webinars that include some best practice strategies from actual Arizona school districts about the recruitment and retention of students with disabilities in CTE programs. Our first webinar is coming up at the end of September, and I think we'll put the link for that registration in the chat if you want to join us. We will also, for this goal, be diving into our CTE enrollment, VR, and Indicator 14 data to continue to use data to drive our progress for that first goal. Our second goal related to behavioral health, this last couple of years, we've been able to hold multiple meetings with different stakeholders, including the Department of Ed, Voc Rehab, regional behavioral health authorities, and school-based representatives to gather information about their current practices and identify some resources that are existing. And through these discussions, we identified that there are a lot of resources out there, but there are some barriers in actually accessing those and understanding them and navigating the different agencies when we're referring students with behavioral health concerns. Another resource I want to highlight related to this goal that came out of the Department of Ed and Access, our Medicaid provider, is the School and Behavioral Health Partnerships Resource Guide, which is something that ties really nicely to our goal, even if we weren't quite in the committee to develop it. And just to wrap up this goal, our plan for next year is to provide some training for statewide audiences, specifically educators and Voc Rehab counselors, and to work with schools to develop a stronger relationship between clinical teams and school districts. So we're really excited to continue this work. We will pop our secondary transition team email in the chat if you want to reach out to us with any questions or ideas. Thank you.
Great. Thanks so much, Sam. And thank you, Anna, for putting all those wonderful resources into chat. And with that, we're going to move on to our friends from the District of Columbia. So District of Columbia folks, if you want to unmute and click on your video and join us.
Hi, Michael. This is Chelsea from DC. My name is Chelsea Kovacs. I am a program manager of secondary transition for School Talk. School Talk is a nonprofit.
It's 14 hours.
Sorry, that is my computer. School Talk. It's my
and
own,
it's not 14 hours long. You have 3 minutes. Go
I have
ahead.
3 minutes. Oh man. Okay. School Talk is a nonprofit in DC that serves both as a technical assistance and professional development provider for our state level education agency. And we're also a pre-employment transition service provider for our Voc Rehab. I'm on the line with my colleague today, Kalicia Beatty, who works at the Office State Superintendent of Education for DC, which is our state level education agency. Together, Aussie and School Talk, we both lead our state interagency team. We also co-facilitate DC's secondary transition community of practice. Our community of practice is representative of over 60 member organizations throughout DC who work with DC youth and secondary transition. Our community of practice, all of the members of our interagency team take leadership roles in our community of practice as well. And we do work towards our interagency goals through our community of practice. This year, our goal is we really are working towards equitable and inclusive college and career readiness programming for all students, including and especially students with disabilities. This goal came out of the fact that in DC, about 1 out of 5 students across the districts have a disability. And also of the students with disabilities, about 50% of them spend at least 80% of their day in the general education classroom. Also unique to DC, we're a small but mighty city. We consist of 68 different local education agencies. Our largest, which serves about half of our district's students, is DC Public Schools. However, the other 68 local education agencies serve the rest, about the other half, through our charter school network. Most of our LEAs have less than 100 students with disabilities. This goal had also come out of just kind of the competition of the DC labor market. We recognize that DC is kind of what we call a commuter city. The majority of jobs are held by individuals who are not DC residents. So it is about 70% of our job market is actually non-DC residents. So our local residents and our students are having trouble being able to access their local labor market. Our main focus areas for our goals and how we kind of hope to reach our equitable, inclusive college and career readiness programming. First, we want to take a district-wide shift. We want to take secondary transition outside of its silo under special education, and we want to place it under college and career readiness. We're hoping to do that at the district, the local education level, agency level, and the school level. Our next focus area is we're hoping to increase equitable access for college and career readiness programs for students with disabilities. And lastly, we're hoping to focus on high quality work-based learning experiences for students with complex support needs. More specifically, high quality and diverse work-based learning experiences. We are realizing that the majority of our work-based learning experiences are not representative of the DC labor market. Many of them are in the hospitality kind of industries, whereas the majority of the DC labor market is made up of occupations that require higher skills and higher education attainment, such as management, business, financial, legal, and computer, and scientific occupations. The way that we hope to measure progress towards these goals is we're hoping to see an increased collaboration between alignment of our career and college readiness programs and our secondary transition systems. We are also hoping to increase engagement of students with disabilities in college and career readiness programming, specifically our career and technical education and dual enrollment programs. And then we're also hoping to increase the variety of industry partnerships for our high quality work-based learning experiences, particularly for those students with complex support needs who may not have that equal access to college degree that might be kind of required to have them be competitive in the DC labor market. However, by having a more diverse relationship with our employer network, we're hoping to be able to develop more customized employment solutions.
Great.
Our next steps, am I like at my 30 seconds?
Yeah, go ahead.
I've lost. Our next steps are on the slide.
Thanks so much. Great job. Thanks so much. Appreciate it. All right, next up, we have our friends in Pennsylvania. So Hillary and Company.
Hello, friends in transition. It's great to
Hello,
see
Hillary.
everybody.
You're on.
We have been extremely busy, as it seems all of you have been, in transition in Pennsylvania. Our big focus was a dangle that was a carryover from our 1920 state plan, which was to update the memorandum of understanding between the Bureau of Special Education, PDE, and Office of Vocational Rehabilitation. So we finished that. And one of the really awesome byproducts of that is our new website, pasecondarytransition.com. I believe my colleague Jackie is going to drop a link to that in the chat. In addition, we also have started to put out a newsletter via SMORE to our state, but it goes out to everybody. I put the most recent link in the chat. We call that Transition Tidbits, and it is an interagency transition update newsletter. In terms of our state plan for this year, we actually last year and into this year have a multi-year state plan with an emphasis on students with complex support needs, where our first priority is increasing stakeholder knowledge and use of person-driven planning practices. And we started that by creating a survey last year that we have administered now to our partners and agencies, educators, and family caregivers for this first year. As of today, we have 462 completed surveys, which we're really proud of, 85 for agency staff, 308 educators, and 68 families and caregivers. Our part 2 of that will be that we will put the youth version out during this year as well. So we will have input across our stakeholder groups for person-driven planning practices. We want to use that data to really create systemic training and resources through person-driven planning toolkits for our stakeholders, and to depict where person-driven planning is happening well in Pennsylvania, utilizing media to depict and to highlight those effective practices. And then I'm going to let Jackie talk about our priority 2. If you're looking for our MOU, you can actually find that on the pasecondarytransition.com website.
Great, thanks, Hillary. So it's only 2 priorities on here, but we are awfully busy. But this one really does focus again on students with complex support needs, which we feel like if you can do that, then you're doing a good job of supporting everybody. So when we talked about that, we were looking at competitive integrated employment being the best outcome for everybody. And when we talked about that as a group, we thought, well, there are different groups who are going to need support with that. So first and foremost was our youth. We are very fortunate in Pennsylvania to have a group started really by our own Michael Storr, the Pennsylvania Youth Leadership Network, which continues with some of the original members of that who are now well into their 30s, who have become adult allies as well. So Hillary and I work very closely with them and really count on them to be the youth voice across Pennsylvania, along with other groups that do participate in that as well. So that youth toolkit is answering questions like, why should I get a job? Because many of our folks who fall into that category of needing a lot of support have kind of been told that you can't work is not for you. So why should I get a job? A big piece of that we learned is benefits planning, and that crosses over really all 3 of these toolkits, youth, family, and professional. So we're trying to answer these questions for everyone, giving them resources to support that. And we're trying to be as creative as we can with that as well, using technology as much as we can, things like Doodly and Powtoons. And we have something called a Patent Pod, which if you visit our website, you'll also see those, which is a podcast run through our agency, Pennsylvania Training and Technical Assistance Network. But undergirding all of this is that whole idea of presuming competence, that in many cases we see professionals, family, and even youth themselves who feel like employment isn't for me, it's for everybody else, not for me. And so we want to put that voice out there and make sure that folks are thinking about the competence of all of Pennsylvania students. We'll turn it back to you, Michael.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Thank you, Hillary and Jackie and folks in Pennsylvania. And with that, I'm going to actually turn this over to Caroline McGee, who's going to talk a little bit about where you can find all of the presentations and information that we're at this year's CBVI. So Caroline, over to you.
All right. Thanks, Michael. And thanks everyone for all the sharing so far. So many exciting things happening, and looking forward to hearing more. I'm going to move through this a little quickly to make sure that we can get to the rest of our sharing today. Really, this is a reminder. We included all the information here for reference for folks. So some of you, or many of you, have already accessed the YesLMS site to access the content and all the materials and resources and the work that was accomplished at the 2021 CBVI. So what's here really is some reminders. And if you have not yet accessed the site, this gives you some prompts on how to do that. And also, if you forgot your password, pretty seamless process to change that, update that, so that you can access the resources and the materials. And there's a little note here, just if you can't find the email once you've registered, go ahead and check your spam folder. But once you get into the YesLMS site, you'll see the content organized by days, and you can access all of the session recordings and materials. So lots of rich information there to continue to be accessed. And again, this just gives you another prompt here related to if you've already registered, you've already on the site. If you've forgotten, oh yeah, I was already on there. I'm already registered. You'll get this message that you already exist, and you just need to enter your password and continue. And again, easy, seamless way to change your password and access the materials. We also wanted to just give a few reminders of ways that you can stay connected to each other and to the work. We have a few things listed here in our communities of practice and peer networks. So opportunities for engaging with your transition colleagues, with NTACT staff, other potential other center partners. So you'll see there we have, a number of opportunities in our communities of practice, some of which meet quarterly, and particularly our indicator for teen community of practice, student and youth re-engagement, complex support needs. Want to point out that one, as well as the continuum of service delivery in the peer network. Those are hosted on the SLMS site, and so you can access resources and materials that way. And we have ongoing participation in these activities with our special education, career and technical education and vocational rehabilitation network. So these are opportunities for you to continue to connect with colleagues and with NTACT staff on your particular focus areas. And if you're not yet a member and you're interested in joining, you can contact us at our email there, and we'd love to have you join and be part of this work.
Great, thanks so much, Karen. And with that, we're going to move on to our next topical area, which is career and technical education focus and collaboration. And I'm going to turn this over to the folks in Idaho. So Idaho, if Randy or Allison are on, if you want to unmute, you're on.
I'm on, yep.
Hey, Randy.
Hi, so Allison is not here to join us today, so I'm going to go over all the stuff on our slide. I think I might have a couple of people from our team that have joined us and are listening in. So if you all have anything to add, please shout out. So yeah, our big focus this last year has been CTE and increasing our partnerships with CTE. Our voc rehab person, Allison Lowenthal, has done an incredible job partnering with CTE and adding some programs to increase pre-ETS type services with CTE. We haven't done quite as much as we had hoped, just because COVID, we couldn't do a lot of our in-person connections with them, but we did this spring have a really good summer program with CTE in one of our high schools, so that was great. We are hoping to increase our partnerships with CTE and all of our LEAs by getting them included in our Transition Institute this fall. We have CTE on board to do a lot of presentations to help us understand how we can include students with disabilities more in their programs. We are this year to spend a lot of time updating our resources, our online resources. We've created a webinar series for teachers and VR staff, and we have that available for them to view as needed, and we'll continue to add more resources this year. And then also we have been working, well, I say we, but Allison through VR has been increasing business engagement. The VR Council has a new business engagement person who is really working hard to engage more businesses in our community to work through our pre-ETS programs and to connect students with employment opportunities. And I don't have a ton because Allison's our talker and I don't talk as much as her, but that's what I have. That's what I have.
Thank you so much. Thanks for sharing Idaho. And with that, we're going to move on to our friends in Indiana. So Jonathan or Michelle, if you're on, want to unmute and undo your video.
I am on. Hello from the Hoosier State.
Hey there, Jonathan.
Hey, how's it going?
Good.
I'm good. I'm Jonathan Cressing. I'm the Director of Youth Services with Indiana VR. And to kind of start, it's sort of our overall goal that led to the goal that you're seeing on this particular slide is really just to increase the number of students with disabilities enrolled in and successfully completing career and technical education, or CTE. So last year, at least I think it was last year, everything's a blur, our team interviewed CTE and special ed directors from throughout the state. And how we kind of chose those CTE and special ed directors is we looked at some data that showed which CTE centers were enrolling like more students with disabilities, which CTE centers had students with disabilities who were successfully completing, and then sort of the opposite end of that, and they'll all remain nameless, who weren't doing as well or maybe needed a little strengthening in that area. So we interviewed both the CTE and SPED directors from kind of both ends of the spectrum and collected a lot of interesting data. But what we found out is that it's really kind of the school counselors who I'll call the gatekeepers, although that's kind of a negative term, but in the sense that it's school counselors who are the ones who sort of encourage students and parents to enroll their students in CTE and get involved in CTE. So that's really what our next step is going to be. And that's kind of where this goal comes from, is that we are going to interview school counselors using kind of the same questions. Our interview protocol has been updated to fit more with school counselors. So I'm looking at my calendar. Can you see that? So this fall, maybe early next year, we've increased our group, so we have more people from Department of Ed involved, more people from Workforce Development who weren't involved, as well as the Department of Corrections. So they might be able to assist, hopefully, with these interviews. So the intent basically is to gather more data from them, kind of combine that with the information we already have from our previous interviews, analyze all of that information and work on developing some pilot programs, either in those particular schools. There's going to be kind of an enrollment form. So if schools are interested in kind of reviewing our information and working on a pilot program with us, they can apply for that. At least right now, that's the goal, hopefully, if all goes well. And you'll notice that last sentence has like 3 question marks after it. So if all goes well, fingers crossed, knock on wood, all that business, we're hoping to implement some of those pilot programs in the 2022-2023 school year. So I think Michelle had an emergency. I don't know if you're still with us. If you want to.
She was floating in and out, Jonathan, so I'm not sure.
Oh, okay. I couldn't tell. And she warned me. She said something's come up. I might not be available. I know Njema from our CTE team is here. Excuse me, as well as Judith. You guys have anything to add? I'm gonna use our 3 minutes, and that was like, I don't know, 30 seconds.
Oh yeah. I think Jonathan covered everything. We're really excited. To figure out, the missing piece with the school counselors. I know the CTE grouping, us being a part of this collective has been really great on both our end and everyone else's end. So we're excited to just continue on the work, and hopefully we'll see some progress and more of our kids maintaining and excelling in these programs and these pathways for the future. So Jonathan touched everything, and I'm happy to be here. Bye.
Great.
All right.
Well, thank you guys. Thank you, Indiana team. Thanks, Jonathan.
You're welcome. Thanks.
All righty, moving on to Oregon. So the folks from Oregon, I'm not sure if Sherry or Sally are on. If you want to unmute and click your camera on.
Hello.
Hey, Sherry.
Hello.
You're on. Hey,
And,
Sally, you're on too. All right, guys, let's hear what's happening in Oregon.
We are so excited. We are co-leading from the great state of Oregon. And together we represent Oregon's TTAN, which stands for Transition Technical Assistance Network. So our collective overarching TTAN goal is to improve transition outcomes for students with disabilities by creating an equitable, sustainable, simplified system aligned across agencies that reduces redundancy. It's a heavy lift, and we are excited to be charging. One exciting report from Oregon is that we recently added a parent advocate to our state team and believe that this will add great value in developing and implementing goals by raising the parent's voice. So really excited about that. And I'm going to kick it off with our first goal, and then we will end with Oregon's CTE goal. So our first goal we have focused on is increasing students and families' knowledge of supported decision-making. So we've recently received legislative approval through Oregon House Bill 2105 for our Oregon law to ensure that Oregonians with disabilities can be supported to make decisions about their own lives to the maximum extent possible. So supported decision-making action would include written supported decision-making agreements and training and information regarding supported decision-making when post-school outcomes are discussed. So in an effort to ensure collaboration with these goals, we have created a stakeholders group, and plans are being developed to launch a train the trainer training, that's a mouthful, in supported decision-making, and plans for developing literature to be used consistently statewide, again, in that overarching goal of reducing redundancy. So our state's team has focused a lot of years on the importance of supported decision-making, and now we're very grateful that this goal has been elevated through law. So on that, I will pass the mic to my partner, Sally, to describe our next two goals.
Hi, everyone. So goal number 3 for Oregon is that at the first CBVI, we talked a lot about transition programs being off school campuses, and this became one of our charges. So we are working with a group that we have a charge for developing a resource guide. It's going to be kind of a how to do it research, have funding structures, talking about risk management. And as we create this network, we want to be able to experiment around it. There's a group that we are going to pilot this around. We're working on the transportation piece of this guide to be able to help school districts understand how this, they're missing out on students that don't return to school after graduation, and how can we move this transition services into the community. So this is more to come on this, and the guide we're really excited about, and being able to develop a group of people. We had it started, it stopped due to COVID, and we're back working on that again. Goal number 3 is to develop a toolkit for CTE, and like everyone else, we want to be able to train the youth, the family, and the professionals around what's available. Oregon's state technical career department has been working really hard on the response to students being able to access, students with disabilities being able to access career technical ed classes. We have developed some hubs around the state. We're really excited about it. We have a Baker Technical Institute that's doing portable programs so that school districts that can afford to develop a CTE program, but students are interested in those classes, they can come to the school district with their trailer behind their truck and do things with students. We also are working at the school, our ESDs, our educational service districts, have developed career technical centers, and actually one was opened in Salem this fall. And any students from the surrounding regions, which is 21 school districts, can access that Career Technical Institute. So we're really excited about having our CTE partners and our new parent partners on our team to be able to elevate some of the goals that we have for our state plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Sally and Sherry. Appreciate it. Great work in Oregon. And we're going to go ahead and move on to South Dakota. And Dave and Katie, you're on.
Thank you, Michael. With me today, I have Katie Grand. She's the South Dakota Vocational Rehabilitation's Transition Specialist. I'm a regional coordinator with the state's Transition Services Liaison Project, and my position is jointly funded, as it has been for the last 20 years, by Special Ed and Voc Rehab. So we have some history of collaboration here. Also, another exciting thing that's happening in South Dakota is that the Department of Labor and Regulation and also Career and Tech Ed are jointly funding some positions under a program called Career Launch, where they're getting out to the schools and helping to develop and implement some work-based learning. So we're very excited with that collaboration. On a state level, let's see, we meet probably every 2 months. We do have a history of working together even before this initiative, but to continue with things that we can be doing to help improve outcomes for our students. So in continuation of those efforts from 2020, one thing that we do is to attend and present at our partners' conferences. So that effort continues to be underway. And we are moving, and I think successfully moving towards having regionally based partnerships. And the next thing, and we're starting to do a little bit of that, but to get into the schools with our collaboration. The one thing that we had identified last year, and we do have a survey now, but we're still compiling results and trying to get more responses from our CTE folks. And so that's an ongoing effort, but we do have a partner with the Department of Labor who is really anxious to get going with some things. So with his program, he has invited us to help him with implementing seamless work-based learning at schools that are hosting JAG programs, Jobs for America's Graduates. And right now I believe there are 6 in the state, and he's identified 3 that he would like this team to work with. Additionally, we have added some school district participation to our statewide team, and that's been very enlightening as well, as far as helping us to identify things that we might want to work with. Let's see, with the Department of Labor, just briefly, they're just a wonderful partner. If your state had a disability employment initiative, especially one that might have dealt with youth, maybe try to seek those folks out. I was fortunate enough to be part of a planning team for the youth DEI here in South Dakota, and a lot of that systems change grant has met its goals, and a lot of those things are embedded now, where we have integrated resource teams, which can serve an individual. So any individual, if that student happens to have a disability, we might involve voc rehab. So it's a little bit more of a global situation, or for the whole student. So we're excited with the way things are going here in South Dakota, and hope that things continue to go well in the future. Katie, did you have anything you'd like to share?
No, I think you did a great job.
Okay, thank you, Michael.
All right,
Thank you, Katie.
Dave and Katie. Appreciate you sharing what's happening in South Dakota. Thank you so much. And with that, we are moving into our last section, and I know we're at the bottom of the hour, and but folks are sharing some wonderful information. We have a final set of states. We are recording today's session, so if anybody does need to hop off, it is going to be recorded, but please stick around for our last set of states. And with that, we're going to move into Arkansas.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's
hey,
Bonnie Boaz.
How are you?
Great.
Fantastic.
So, Paul Johnston and I are both part of the Arkansas team, and we represent Arkansas Transition Services. And I think we're the only ones on today, but we are going to continue our collaborative efforts with our VR, including services for the blind and Arkansas Rehab Services, and also career and technical education. And so one of those things that came from our collaboration is co-teaching in the CTE classroom. And we piloted a class, the agriculture class in the 9th grade in a school in Magnolia, Arkansas this past year. And pandemic or not, it was a great success with the teachers learning from each other and the students learning from each other. And we really feel like it's going to promote future students to get into CTE classes. They really felt supported, and our goal is to continue on with that class and also hopefully expand to higher classes in the future. We also are participating with the National Alliance for Partnership and Equity with their PIPE project, that's Program Improvement Process for Equity, to help see where other deficits are for underserved populations in CTE. So we're going to be working on that actually this week. We've also expanded our career coach program with CTE, and the latest one being at the School for the Deaf. So that's a program that helps promote and support all students to go on to post-secondary education. And I'm going to let Paul tell you about Circles.
We have been working for a couple of years to get Circles scaled up in Arkansas. For those you don't know, Circles is communicating interagency relationships and collaborative linkages for exceptional students. Even with the pandemic and all the fun, we had a couple of districts that were able to hold some community level and student level team meetings virtually. It wasn't ideal, but we were able to make some activities and linkages for those students. We had, I think, 4 districts that were trained right before the pandemic hit, and we hope to be ramping up with them as soon as this fall starts and we can get them moving.
And lastly, with the new school year and most students reporting back to campuses across Arkansas, we're excited to continue to improve our work experiences for high school students. WOLF is a new program, WOLFE. It's an old program actually that's been revised, but it's for work-based learning. It stands for work opportunities. Oh gosh, I lost it, but it's a great acronym, I promise. And we're excited to be doing that with Arkansas Rehab Services, and Services for the Blind is going to be participating in that as well, we hope. And then we'll continue on with the JAG, Jobs for America's Graduates, or Arkansas graduates in this case, which did receive the National 5 of 5 Award this past year. So it's really a strong partnership with CTE. And I'm just going to plug DCD 2022 really quick. It's going to be in Arkansas, Little Rock, Arkansas. We hope everybody makes it. Thanks.
Great. Thanks, Paul and Bonnie. And with that, we're moving on to the state of Maryland. So Christy, Abe.
Yes, can you guys hear me?
We can. Christy, you're on.
Super. Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. Boy, my hand's tired from jotting down all these notes. This has been fantastic. I'm joined today, though, with Jill Hill, who is my counterpart at our state VR, which we call DOORS. I am the secondary transition chief at the Division of Early Intervention and Special Education Services and in our Maryland State Department of Ed. I wanted to focus really on 2 big things because you guys can certainly read the slide on your own, but our goal really hasn't changed. And I say that because it really remains the same because we have these revised efforts to reflect progress. So we still want to look at state level partnership to promote those outcomes. What's been interesting is that our goals that we've focused on have this common messaging, product development, all of those things have been happening across. And I've heard from other states how they've included some interesting partners. I know that we've had local school systems from day one. We've also had labor as well as our Division of College Career Readiness at the State Department as well, which has been helpful. But I do feel like the development of these guiding principles and beliefs is something that we were really starting to focus on this past year. And this really led to the progress we made, which was a signed, as of July 2021, a signed MOU across 7 state agencies in Maryland, which was quite a feat for us. We've worked quite hard to have that happen, but it really was an MOU that focused on the commitment of all the partners to continue our collaboration. And then we focused a lot on our shared values to support students with disabilities. So, you know, we used it to strengthen our data sharing agreements when we needed to, but it's been a really great partnership that we've been able to do with that. And the other thing I wanted to make mention about was we've talked about it last year, but we've made some progress on it, is our Maryland Transition Linkage Tool. And the linkage tool was something that was created out of our Maryland Promise grant. And it really did aim to ensure those linkages from the school to those post-school services and supports that we know how important that they are. And it represents a first of its kind data sharing agreement that allows schools and agency personnel to work really collaboratively, which has been great with having our state agencies collaborative in place to deliver those coordinated services And also the process of, right now, we're in the process of a memorandum of understanding for the linkage tool and the data sharing agreements. So one of the other focuses that I wanted to bring up is we have a brand new superintendent that began in July of this year as well. And we have been very encouraged by the efforts that he's making early on about the focus on underserved equity issues across all students in Maryland. So we're very excited about expanding our efforts for our collaborative to include juvenile services and our DHS, which would be focusing on homeless and foster care. So we're excited about that. I think I've hit everything. You guys can read some of the other things. Jill, did I hit everything?
You did. You did a great job.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you, Marilyn.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Moving on. And we have next up our friends from Minnesota. So looking for Alyssa or Lindsay, you're on.
Hi, Michael.
Hello.
This is
You're
Lindsay
on.
Horowitz here. And I'm here with our colleague Alyssa Klein as well. So we have, we participated in CBVI as their first time last year, and it was an amazing collaboration. And our goal from last year was really focusing on that data on our youth employment outcomes between all of our agencies. So the Department of Education, Employment and Economic Development, and Human Services. And we are continuing that goal of hopefully making more progress on our data dashboards as multi-agency efforts, and you really being able to utilize our data to drive our decisions. And then our addition to our goal for this year is to really better align our policies and procedures across agencies to better address gaps and reduce the duplication of transition services. And this one's been really nice too, to see all of our collaborative efforts among our agencies, and some of the tasks that we've outlined in our goal for this year is really focusing on some process mapping. And all of this kind of goes under what we are calling E1MN, which stands for Employment First Minnesota, focusing in on our youth. And so process mapping, really kind of identifying across all of our agencies the flow of supports and services. And then on top of that process mapping, making sure that we're identifying like appropriate referrals for services, whether that be pre-ed services, referral for county services, work experiences, IEP meetings and planning, and graduation and transition servicing. And then another huge effort that is collaborative, but not necessarily identified in our tasks in a direct way, but more of a passive way, is really our transition framework. And huge thank you to the team at NTACT. We really appreciate your support in those efforts. We're really moving along nicely with the transition framework, which will support all of these efforts that we have as a team. Just to identify a couple more. Oh, and we also, in the alignment of policies and procedures, ensuring that we have evidence-based practices for our transition services between education and community agencies. Just really increasing that alignment. And I don't know if Alyssa, if you have anything else to add, but I think that might be it. Nope, that was great, Lindsay, thanks.
Thanks so much, and great work in Minnesota. It's fun working with you guys. So looking forward to the coming year. And with that, we're over to Rhode Island, and our friends in Rhode Island, Carrie, if you want to unmute, you're on.
Hi, Michael, and hi, our friends from NTACT. I'm Carrie Collins. I'm a regional transition coordinator here in Rhode Island. And we actually had 5 goals, but I'm going to focus on talking to you about the goal that falls under student development, which is to increase our opportunities for youth to participate in pre-employment transition services. And we wanted to implement and evaluate the methods to determine our impact on our students. So we have, I'm going to just list out some of our tasks here. We are going to provide pre-ed information to teachers and students who may not typically be considered for some of the VR services that we offer. We're going to capture some of our VR counselors providing information about the services. So we're going to get some recordings of them, regional counselors that are going to speak about the transition services that are available through PREETs. We are also going to host our statewide student event or events where we haven't quite narrowed that down, whether we're going to do some regional events or one large statewide event with focus on the 5 PREET services. So that self-determination, self-advocacy, work readiness, job exploration counseling. We also want to update our PREET fact sheets. We have a state PREET fact sheet that talks about all of the programs that we offer, but we also wanted to capture some of the new offerings that we had during the pandemic. We increased some of those virtual services. So we wanted to talk about those virtual services still being able to be implemented or also in person. We wanted to draft our PREETs brochure for families and students and really start to talk to families about what these offerings are all about and identify a youth group in our state that can review the brochure and tell us what we may or may not be missing. We also are going to create a youth panel. So this panel of students that are going to talk about their experiences being involved in PREETs and what PREETs activities they participated in over the past several years. We're really excited about that one. We're going to establish a reporting system to account for the increase in PREET services to include students' age and disability category. And by the end of the year, hopefully be able to review and analyze all of our data and the services that we incorporated into our year. So it's really a lot to do with PREETs. I know I have a couple of more minutes, so I'm just going to tap into a couple of other of our goals. Our other goal is to strengthen our relationship with our PREETs. I'm sorry, between CTE and special ed. I know George Tilson's going to like that one. He's going to give us a thumbs up. We're going to continue our collaboration and coordination of services for our students with complex needs here in Rhode Island and supporting them in their transition process. We are also we have some great tasks under our parent goal, and we are going to dive deep into some of our federal indicators and identify our gaps to identify some technical assistance that we might need from you all folks. So thank you so much for the time and enjoy.
Thank you so much, Carrie, for sharing. We appreciate it. And next up, South Carolina. And Lee.
Well, I lied to you this morning because I was not supposed to be. I was not supposed to be able to be on, and then Leah actually had to jump off at 2:30. Okay. So I'm gonna make some stuff up for you guys this afternoon.
All right, you're on.
Just kidding, but so she was more prepared, but I can talk about what we're doing too. So we're lucky in South Carolina. We actually have a very large state team, probably like 20 to 30 members, and we noticed over the last year it actually almost was a hindrance when we had to move to the virtual format that we kind of ended up struggling with moving forward with things. Sometimes we felt like we had 5 goals in the last year, and we felt like sometimes it was almost putting more work on some of our local partners with COVID and dealing with things, especially our school districts. So when we met and revamped at this last CBVI, we decided to kind of step back and really focus more. We have a lot of actually strong local interagency teams. So we've refocused our efforts to look at what those local interagency teams are needing rather than kind of starting with some of our old goals to see what's going on in the local regions and how our team can be a support for those. We've actually also developed a core team, so a group of us, a smaller group of us, so we can work in this virtual setting more effectively, are meeting monthly and then doing our whole team quarterly. We actually are doing on September 14th something very similar to what we're doing today with our local interagency teams, having each of our teams sharing what they're working on at the local level so that we can then revamp our plan to better support those local interagency teams with their needs. And then we're hoping to do a tentative in-person planning session in December with our local teams as well. to help them continue their processes. So that's generally what we're doing here in South Carolina.
Great, thank you so much. Greatly appreciate it. And next up, we have Texas and the Texas folks. If you want to unmute.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Hello, Susie, you're on.
I'm Susie May, and I'm the state transition coordinator at the Texas Education Agency, and I'm the owner of the Student Center Transitions Network, and I have my lead on, Dr. Vicki Mitchell has joined me in addition to our team that is part of this network. And I'll just go ahead and touch base on a lot of things that we're doing. Our main goal is to really build this capacity out across the state. We have over 1,200 LEAs, and that is a feat in of itself. So we're really trying to build that capacity and strengthen the community, the delivery and communication chains that we have from the state level down to the LEA level to that end user, which is our student and the parents. So some things that we've tackled this year have been the Regional Student Advisory Committee, and it was our second year for this round with the RSAC. And it plays very well with the NTACT youth engagement that is really getting going as well. And we're really trying to expand the student voice in reviewing materials as we put them on, and also just developing self-determination, self-advocacy, etc. Another thing is that at the end of this year, we are launching the Interactive Texas Transition Employment Guide. This is a statutory piece from the Texas legislature. And it needs to be updated every 2 years, but we did a major overhaul this year and with a lot of stakeholder input. And it is so far been well received. It is in the hands of leadership right now, and hopefully we'll have that posted on our website in the next couple of weeks. Legislatively, we have transition and employment designees, otherwise we call them TEDs, and we started community practice for these folks because they are literally out in those LEAs by themselves, and we wanted to build a support network for them. So we started with 1 participant per 20 regions, and we're going to expand that for next year with 2, but at some point we want to have a regional community of practice so there is a support. So again, that capacity building from the top down, and so our students will benefit from the integrity of this group in this position. In Texas, we also have adopted the early to exit mindset for transition. So we have a document we have several resources on our website, but the most recent is Supporting Early Childhood Transitions, a quick reference guide, and that is from the ECI to the ECSE, and get that first part of transition and the parent engagement. Moving on to what we're planning for next year, or like say next year because we work on a grant cycle, so fiscal year. We're really amping up the capacity building, and we're doing a collaboration institute that will be bringing together everyone from VR to CTE to our effective advising group, which is the counselors, hopefully early childhood, but we want our LEAs to bring teams to this. And again, modeling after NTACT and what's been going on with capacity building and being that collaborative model that we can amp up. And this will also be the interagency collaboration because we're really trying to amp up our VR and CTE collaboration. And so that they understand what their roles are, because right now I think that they don't understand. So we want to be sure that our students are benefiting from the spectrum that they need to. And the access to CTE classes is huge. Also, we need to work with our adults and letting these students in those classes. And so access to those. And then our transition and legislative policy, we have a monitoring group that has reported out for non-compliance areas in transition, covering transition assessments, writing measurable post-secondary goals, and coordinating set of activities. So we've been developing Canvas courses for this, asynchronous courses, and this will roll into a coaching model for this next cycle. And that will be around the post-measurable goals, but we're going to roll these other asynchronous courses into that in a trainer model. And then as far as student development and outcomes, we are really focusing on 18+ programs for our students and services. Self-determination, we're going to be looking at all of, we don't do Common Core, we do the Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills, otherwise known as TEAK. So we're going to do landscape review and pull every self-determination aspect out of those, and then work on the benchmarks for early to exit, so that we can embed some of these assessments. The assessment folks have been asking us when the parents pull out their testing results for their students and age appropriately, where should they be in their transition along the way. So we're going to be working on benchmarks for that. And we're going to amp up the SPP 14 and just trying to get our folks to be data literate and create a dashboard with our vendor so that our LEAs can look at to see how that impacts their programs. And so we're really amping that. So that will be more to come. We're at the ground level of that right now. And the career and technical accommodations manual. This was an old manual that we have revived, but everybody's been using it and it's very archaic. So our network is going to modernize it. And I know that the CTE teachers, this is something that they really need, because that's one of the problems is when they get our students in the classroom and they really don't know what to do. So this will help with that. So anybody else from my team want to add anything? I think I've covered
it's a busy year in Texas.
Yeah, I would just say a big shout out to NTACT. Your support and input has been invaluable to us. And as you can see, we're doing a lot, and we keep trying to remember Catherine Fowler's words to keep it manageable. Catherine, we're working on it. Not achieved it, but we're working on it.
Sounds good. Well, thank you, Susie and Texas folks. And we're going to move on to our next state, and it's Maine. And I think we have Leora. Yep. Hey, Leora.
Hi.
You're on.
Hi. So Libby Stone Sterling, who is the co-leader of Maine's team, she is the director of voc rehab for Maine, had to step away. So I'm just going to share out what we've been working with. For the last 2 years for NTACT, we have been working on interagency collaboration. So this year, we have extended eligibility to FAPE to age 22, and we've been doing a lot of work with the Maine Parent Federation, Department of Corrections, CTE, DHHS, Maine Care, Maine Center for the Deaf and Blind, and voc rehab, and some other agencies to really look at good quality programming to extend our eligibility. So it's not 2 extra years of the same programming for students with disabilities. So that's really what we're working on, is improving those cross-agency collaborative groups and developing a decision tree for IEP teams to use to facilitate their discussion about extending eligibility. We want to help them with that process and really support them as they go through that process.
Great. Thank you so much. And with that, we are going to
Michael, I'm going to jump in real quick,
sure.
Lee, if that's possible. There was one state that somehow we just missed getting their slide up. So I'm going to open, if I can share my screen real quickly.
Yep, you sure
and
can.
We're going to, Pat from Missouri is going to jump in.
Sure, Pat from Missouri.
Except I think you may have to stop sharing.
Oh, I probably do. I probably
do this
do.
as seamlessly as possible.
You're good.
All right, awesome. So let's see if I can make this happen really quickly. And sorry, here we go.
We're seeing it.
All right, it's not perfect there, Pat, but it'll work.
That's okay. That's okay. Can you all hear me?
Yep, you're good.
Okay. Well, I'm Pat Runge, and I'm from the state of Missouri.
and I work at the Missouri Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. I am the post-secondary transition coordinator, facilitator for our state. And I think Kim G from VR is also on the call, or she may have had to leave. She's got another meeting. But we just wanted to share out what we're doing here in the state of Missouri. Our goal for 2022 is for all stakeholders to be provided resources and information about access to transition services to improve post-secondary outcomes for students with disabilities through education on the continuum of services. We wanted to improve that access to the transition services and make it more easily accessible, easier to find. And so we're going to do this. We've been doing a lot of interagency collaboration. As you can see, some of the tasks that we have listed on there, we're going to create frequently asked questions type of document that we're going to push out with our sales messages that we can push out to schools and on the stakeholders within the schools, and that have to do with special education and transition. And we expanded our state team this year, and we have a pretty good representation of people on our state team that helped us to come together to create this goal. We have myself with the Department of Education, vocational rehab representatives, a PREETS person, our Missouri Parent Act, which is our parent advocacy agency. We have a couple of members from that agency to represent the parent advocates, and also our career tech ed coordinator. So we're working together with all of those agencies to really to improve the flow of services to all the stakeholders for transition services. We're also doing some cross trainings to train all the different agencies on what each agency is doing with transition, and posting those different trainings and things on our website, on our Department of Education website. And we are working with the PREETS and the University of Missouri on creating some targeted videos for the special populations to improve youth engagement. And the PREETS people are working on creating some short, like 3 to 5 minute videos that we can post on our website, so they know a little bit more about what PREETS is and can show some people involved in PREETS and different things to increase that youth engagement and increase knowledge about those services, so that information is there and they can see it and hear about it and access those services. We've also been working on collaborating with the WIOA Youth Subcommittee. And we're working on districts that we want to focus on to build networking and collaboration at the local level. So we're trying to duplicate our teams that we have for WIOA, and we have a Missouri interagency transition team. And I heard another state say that they have a MIT team. And so we have one as well for Missouri. And so we're utilizing that interagency transition team to help with us with these goals this year. So it's not just a silo, and we're not just all working on in our own lane, but we're working on really this interagency collaboration, because we're all working really with the same goal in mind. And we're going to take this with the help of NTACT and the Transition Coalition self-study. We are going to be piloting their Transition Coalition program with some stakeholders across our state. And then we're going to increase the capacity for local school districts in our state, kind of replicating the different stakeholders at the state level, but down to the local level, and including all those different agencies at the local level. And that's going to help with the transition improvement across the state. And I just want to say thank you to Brenda for facilitating, because this was my first year to participate in this process, and she was a big help. So I want to say thank you to NTACT and Brenda.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. And with that, we are going to go and just kind of wrap up today. Wanted to remind some folks about some of the upcoming events we have. August 31st is our webinar, Understanding the Big Picture of the Connection Between Disability and Poverty, looking at Social Security issues and around really understanding financial capacity. Also on September 15th, our Youth Engagement Transition Initiative, or YETI, we're having a focused session. It's a recruitment outreach session that is specific to student, youth, and young adults. So in your states, if you know of any students, youth, or young adults who would be interested in looking at more of a leadership development capacity, please share this registration link. It has gone out in our email blast. We're really looking to engage those students, youth, and young adults on the 15th. That is really specific to that group, not really for adults. It's for students, youth, and young adults. Also, we are planning, and you'll notice there were a lot of interagency collaboration goals that state teams have. So this fall, we have 3 webinars that are going to be dealing with collaborations and systems level alignment. So September 16th is a session on systems level interagency collaboration and looking at how one state, and it's actually state of Maryland, presented today, it made it work. That is on our website also, and you can register. And then coming up on October 14th, Vermont will be presenting a session on It Takes Two, collaboration between VR and education to deliver pre-employment transition services. And then in November, and a date to be announced, we're looking at interagency collaboration that's going to be highlighting the circles model that Arkansas spoke about today. Wanted to also let folks know that we are planning for next year. So for the 2022 Capacity Building Virtual Institute, save the date. We're looking at it to be the week of May 3rd through 5th, those 3 days. It will be a virtual Capacity Building Institute format again this coming year. And we're looking at the content to really reflect what is being talked about today, as well as our TA requests that were being received over the year. We're also looking at ways to continue the engagement with you, your teams, throughout the year in between the Capacity Building Institutes, and look for more information to follow from us. And with that, would like to thank you for your participation, and in particular, all that you do and your actions. It was amazing information that we heard today. You can find us on our website or email us if you have any questions. And thanks for joining us today. We did record today, so this information will be posted along with any resources that you have. So enjoy the rest of your day, and thank you.